Welcome to another edition of Your Chiropractic Health with Dr. John J. Haberstrell. Welcome, Dr. John.
How are you doing tonight, JoJo?
You know, I'm doing great, but we have to clear something up right here. A lot of people call you Dr. John, Dr. H. What would you like to be called tonight?
I think tonight we'll just stick with Dr. H. Keep it simple.
Very good. So, Dr. H, you're going to take us on a journey about chiropractic health.
It's all about chiropractic, and I think the best way to start this is to talk about a history of manipulation of the spine, which goes way, way back, long before the word chiropractic was even coined.
Okay, so you have an interesting story about W.D. Palmer. Wasn't he the man who discovered?
Well, D.D. Palmer.
Oh, D.D. Palmer. I stand to be corrected.
D.D. Palmer was the fellow who moved the bones in a person's neck and had an amazing result. And that was in 1895. But let's go back 2,000 years.
2,000 years?
Ancient Egypt. In the hieroglyphs that you can see even now in Egypt, on both the Sphinx and all the great pyramids on the Giza Plateau, there are hieroglyphs of men walking on spines, pushing on spines, presumably of the Egyptian workers who are working on the great pyramids. So we can safely say that manipulation of the spine goes back thousands of years to ancient Egypt.
So they were a very advanced civilization.
They were in many ways.
So they just knew, I mean, they built pyramids.
They built pyramids, they perfected embalming techniques, not that we're talking about that tonight, but apparently they also utilized manipulation of the spine as a remedy for back pain.
Okay, so take us through the timeline.
Now flash forward.
Okay, very good.
To 500 BC. The father of medicine as we know him today, Hippocrates.
Oh, right.
He still is known as the father of medicine, and all MDs, medical doctors, take the Hippocratic Oath upon graduation from medical school.
And what is that oath?
First, do no harm.
I see.
That's the whole idea. Don't do any harm. At least don't make people worse. You know. But however, Hippocrates in his time was a great believer in holistic health. And we're going to come back to that word time and time again, as we've done on our weekly TV show. Holistic health, looking at the whole body. That's, say, exercise or lack thereof, nutrition or whatever you're eating, stress at work, stress at home, posture, all these kind of things. And what kind of health care are you receiving, if any? So we're looking at all of your health, the whole picture, holistic health.
Well, you're one of my favorite doctors.
Oh, thank you very
I love to
much.
see you because I know that when I get a chiropractic adjustment, I feel like I'm in tune. And I feel like my whole well-being is just lifted. And as you say, you deal with the whole body. And a lot of people have a misconception about chiropractic health. They think that you just go in there and you get your neck twisted and it pops and it's uncomfortable and it's painful. Well, but it's not.
No, it's not. Now, this is Hippocrates' great concept, holistic care. He's the one that found aspirin, so to speak. He found the willow leaf, opened and applied to a wound, had acetylsalicylic acid in it. That's what we now call it. That's what also now is called common aspirin. He determined that this compound, he didn't call it aspirin obviously, would de-inflame an area and deaden pain. He also wrote books called On Joints, several volumes, all about manipulation of the spine.
Okay.
So we could probably also call him the father of chiropractic. And that's at 500 BC. Flash forward to 1895.
Oh, here we are with D.D.
D.D. Palmer was a bone setter. And he knew a little bit about anatomy, but he was not a licensed or trained physician. He was a bone setter. He knew a little bit about anatomy, but not too much. In his office one day came Harvey Lillard, who was a janitor who was deaf. And he explained to D.D. Palmer that he had his hearing for most of his life, but he turned his neck one day about a year previously, lost his hearing after he heard something go out of place in his neck. Now D.D. Palmer reasoned, well, maybe this one of these bones is out of place. If I push it back, maybe his hearing will return. D.D. Palmer did just that. Harvey Lillard's hearing was restored. Now that's the legend of modern chiropractic.
I bet Harvey Lillard was a very happy man when he said, I can hear again.
Very happy guy. So D.D. was so impressed with this whole thing, he decided to coin a word, which was chiropracticum, hand practice. Two Greek words, put together you have chiropractic.
Hand practice, chiropractic.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Now the following year, in 1896, he founded the very first school of chiropractic in history, appropriately called Palmer College of Chiropractic.
How many people attended that college?
I think about 12 the first year. This all took place in Davenport, Iowa, and that school is there to this day and still one of the premier colleges of chiropractic in the world.
You did not go there. You went to school, you were trained in Canada.
Correct.
It
was Canadian Memorial Chiropractic College right inside Toronto.
Right.
So that was what happened with D.D. Palmer. Now, interestingly, in 1895, a scientific breakthrough of epic proportions also occurred
Wilhelm.
in Würzburg, Germany.
Right.
Wilhelm Röntgen. We have a graphic of him on here somewhere.
Yes, we do.
He's the first guy, here he is here. He invented X-rays quite by accident, as a matter of fact. And he noticed it was going through walls and hands, and he was just overwhelmed. So he wrote down all the scientific principles, established what was what with X-ray, and he called it X-ray because he couldn't think of anything else to call it.
Right.
X for unknown, mysterious. He just didn't know what in the world to call this thing.
Right.
He published his findings in the Würzburg Scientific Journal in December of 1895. In 1901, Wilhelm Röntgen received the first Nobel Prize ever issued in physics for his discovery of X-ray.
Can you believe that?
Yeah. There's another graphic we have of a hand with a ring on it, and that's his wife's hand, the very first X-ray ever taken.
She was very brave.
A brave
I mean, he
girl.
probably said to her, honey, I need you to do something for me tonight. Can I borrow your hand? And notice the ring. There's not a big diamond on her hand.
Well, this is a right hand, so we'll have to give him a little leeway on this.
Oh, okay. Oh, the wedding band was on the left.
I would presume so.
So she was just making a fashion statement.
Possibly.
Right.
Now, this is long before anyone knew about radiation of X-ray, harmful effects, prolonged exposure, and so forth. Fast screens. Nevertheless, X-radiation is developed then as it is now by bombarding a tungsten target with photons, and then X-rays are given off. So in many ways, nothing has really changed from the way Röntgen discovered it back in the day.
Was she affected by any X-rays?
No, this is the only known X-ray that she submitted to. But it became widely and hugely used. It was a breakthrough in medical technology, and chiropractors seized upon it. As a matter of fact, the first full spinal X-ray ever taken was by a chiropractor in 1934.
Okay, so, all right, so this big thing happened in 1896, right?
1995.
1896?
The school was 1896.
Oh, but the X-ray was?
1895.
Oh, 1895, okay. Take us on the timeline. What happens after Wilhelm?
Okay, well, Wilhelm
X-ray.
discovers X-rays. Chiropractic seizes upon it. D.D. Palmer has a son, B.J. Palmer, Bartlett Joshua Palmer. B.J. carries the torch right into the 1960s. It was B.J. Palmer who took the first X-ray of the spine.
Really?
He carried the torch and kept the chiropractic, torch alive throughout the 30s, 40s, 50s, and into the 60s. In many decades, chiropractors were not even licensed anywhere in this country. So it was a problem. Guys were getting thrown in jail for practicing chiropractic.
So if you were practicing back then, you would have been put into the can.
In many states, yeah.
That would not have been fun.
Not fun at all. As a matter of fact, Massachusetts was the last state to finally allow chiropractic in 1966.
And Blue Cross Blue Shield covers chiropractic.
Well, most of
health.
the insurance do, yeah. In 1974, when chiropractic received a big break from the federal government, the U.S. government recognized chiropractic and established the CCE, Council on Chiropractic Education.
It's fantastic.
Thus, establishing a criteria for all the schools, minimum requirements, so students can graduate from accredited colleges. And then insurance coverage and insurance acceptance followed after that.
And you've been a chiropractor for 23 years?
Don't remind me, 26 years.
26 years, okay. So tell us a little bit about the philosophy of chiropractic.
Well, the whole philosophy of chiropractic, D.D. established it, Hippocrates did too, if you really want to go back in time, is healing without drugs and without surgery.
Oh, I love that. Drugs are...
Now, we're not anti-drugs. Let's not get carried away.
Well, I mean, they have a place.
Judicious use of medications can be helpful. Keyword judicious. We're not anti-drugs, just our philosophical choice is an ability to heal people without the use of drugs and without surgery. Doesn't mean we can cure and heal everybody that walks in our door, but for a lot of people, there's a place for chiropractic care. And for a lot of all of our patients, actually, and probably many more people out there, less drugs or no drugs may be the answer, as well as less or no surgery.
Well, one of the things I think that's great about your practice at Boston Spine Clinics, right here in Somerville, Massachusetts, is that you work hand in hand with regular MDs.
Correct.
And so if someone needs an MRI, you will encourage it. Although you, in fact, do take x-rays in your office, and there are many things that you do that's hands-on. You do a lot of therapy, and
Correct.
And which is fantastic. So doctors love you. They know who you are, and that's all well and good. So let's continue about the philosophy of chiropractic care.
So with chiropractors, you have x-rays, you said, we do use, as many of us do. A lot of chiropractors don't, but those who don't have x-ray in their offices usually refer out for them as needed. So you have x-ray. You have the physical therapy modalities such as intersegmental traction, you have electrical stim.
Wait, you just lost me. Into who?
Intersegmental, like the individual segments of the spine.
Right.
Traction.
Oh, okay.
We also have an ability to augment that with actual linear traction, like you see in hospitals with straps, outriggers, and pounds of pressure to actually pull the spine. Now, I have that in my office. I don't use it too often, but it's there.
That sounds like you're stretching someone.
Some people need to take some of the pressure off some hot discs, that is to say, herniated discs, or in the old days they called them slip discs.
Hey, you know what I want to ask you? What about the people that actually tip themselves upside down and to stretch themselves? You see that on TV. Oh, people never felt better. They're back. They're upside down. I'm saying, what is that all about? Is that good?
Yeah, it's not bad. It's gravity boots. As long as you can stand it, you can do it for a few minutes.
Have you ever done it?
I did it, and I didn't like it. I was uncomfortable with it. I felt like my eyes were going to pop right out of their sockets.
Oh, I see.
The
So the
blood rushes
pressure.
in. I personally didn't like it.
Okay, so it's not for everybody.
Not for everybody.
Okay, so back to the philosophy.
It's also, we all have electrical stim in its many forms, such as microcurrent to encourage healing of ripped and torn muscles, ligaments, even bone structures.
Yeah, I've had that done. We feel the pulse going through you.
Well, that's another form. You have interferential from the word interference. It was a Dutch invention years ago, and it recreates the certain neurological wavelength that inhibits pain from reaching to higher cortical centers.
Right.
So you put these pads on the body. There's a little bit of pulse. Less is more with this stuff.
Right.
And it'll just deaden and knock out the pain for a while. So that's another application of the same therapy unit. You can switch the settings on that electrical stim unit. Very effective. We also have rehabilitation methods where patients are weightlifting on specific protocols, in addition to what I do, which is spinal manipulation of the spines and the extremities.
Now, when you do the manipulation, are you actually increasing the blood flow?
In some cases, yes.
Maybe I should ask you this question. When you are doing your manipulation, how many layers are you working with? You're working with the blood, you're working with the bone.
Well, if you look at the spine here from the side, it's a side view of a normal spine. And notice it has certain curves. If you took that spine, put it on its side like this, it would remind you of a suspension bridge system.
Oh, like the Leonard Zakin Bridge.
Any bridge, the Golden Gate.
Golden Gate,
any of these bridges. Now, this is what this is a suspension system, but in column form, and it holds 16 times more weight and stress than a flat drawbridge. So first and foremost, we want to, I'll ask you a question in 1 second.
Okay.
We want to maintain the integrity of the spine as seen from this side view. So the various curves are normal. From a front to back view, we should be perfectly straight. But this is a side view, not to be confused with a front to back view.
Okay.
Okay. So you asked me about the various layers and the various effects. Chiropractic, first and foremost, will affect the bones. It's an orthopedic issue. Usually the bones are out of place.
Right.
That's the first and foremost. Most importantly, however, is the neurological consequences of what we do.
Right.
Now, in this graphic, we can see the spinal cord coming out of the brain, going all the way down to the coccyx. That part of the spine is called the cauda equina, Latin for horse's tail. All the nerves splay out like the tail of a horse. Really, the spinal cord is nothing but an extension of the brain. So it's primary brain matter. There's 31 pairs of spinal nerves coming out from the side.
So when people when their spine is affected and that their brain's not working, that's why? Because
I wouldn't call it the brain not working, but it's this delicate neurological tissue. It's an extension of the brain.
Oh, okay.
31 pairs of spinal nerves emerge on both sides, and this is how we can affect the body internally without opening you up with surgery, without giving you medication, by manipulation of the spine, which in turn affects the neurological system.
When I'm getting a chiropractic health adjustment and you hear the what is that?
That's carbon dioxide coming out of solution. Every joint in the body has a little sac of fluid called a bursa. You heard of bursitis?
Yes.
Okay, every joint has that, even the little joints in the spine. And sometimes when the vertebrae are jinked out of place and not in their normal alignment, this will stretch that little sac and CO2 starts to build up. It's one of the constituents of the fluid inside the bursa. So when we adjust, that solution pops and comes out of solution, not unlike a can of soda being opened.
So why is bursitis and these things so painful in the body? What is going on?
Well, that's usually affiliated with the shoulders, arms, knees, things like that. Stress to the joints will cause inflammation of the sacs of fluid around the joints.
So pain is fluid around the joints.
That is one of a myriad of forms of pain.
Really?
Pain comes in many and varied forms.
Give me an example.
If I took a baseball bat and hit you on the shin as hard as I humanly could,
Don't do that.
I wouldn't aggravate any bursa. I would bruise the bone, and that
Right.
hurts like I don't have to tell you, do I?
No, it would hurt.
Now,
I had an arrow shot in my leg by my cousin. I know. You're saying an arrow. Where was I?
Some
With the
cousin you got
Indians?
there.
Well, he got into big trouble, but I still have a scar right in my leg. He had an arrow. It went right in my bone. I saw the stars, the moon, the cow jumping over. I just went, wow. I was a kid.
Yeah, now that's a good example of some other kind of pain besides bursa. Bursitis is just one of, I can't even tell you, thousands of forms of pain.
Maybe that's why I'm having trouble with my leg. Because of my cousin. I have to talk to him.
Yeah, it could be.
We have to have a conversation.
So that's what it is. So getting back to that neurological, so it's a unique therapeusis to be able to manipulate someone's spine and yet affect the nerve system. Now, today I had 2 patients came in who have classic migraines.
Do tell.
Migraine. Now, a lot of people think they have migraines. It's almost a generic diagnosis. Everyone thinks headache must be migraine. Very few people have true migraines.
What is a true migraine?
True migraine is the constriction, vasoconstriction of arteries in the brain. And then they open up later, you get this pounding. It's like opening up a dam and the water just tumbles down the stream.
Wow.
That's the pounding effect. The heart's just pumping normally, but arteries that were so constricted have suddenly opened up, and this pounding wave of blood comes gushing through that has been dammed up, before the constriction part of the artery. In addition, there's a field of fortification in the vision, so you get a constricted area of view, and it's got usually wavy lines in it. You don't like white lights. You have photophobia. You don't like loud sounds. Audiophobia. People want to retreat to a dark, quiet room and not come out until this whole thing passes.
So what did you do to relieve their symptoms?
I haven't actually started treating them, but I've had many patients just like them in the past, and this is what I'm going to do with these 2. Like I've done in the past, manipulation of the spine.
Do you start with the head, the shoulders, the back, or everywhere? You just go down the whole gamut.
These 2 had a car accident. They're going to require manipulation of the full spine with emphasis on the neck. However, what I've had in the past is people whose primary problem was just the neck and nowhere else. And let's not forget the holistic effect here. We also know that certain foods affect migraines. That is to say, there are food triggers that start the migraine.
Well, certain foods
Yeah.
affect my... Are you
Absolutely.
kidding? Like
I
what
kid
kind
you
of
not.
foods?
Chocolate,
I love
coffee,
chocolate.
red wine,
love
and
chocolate.
nuts.
I love nuts.
So what do they have? What do they all have in common? They have caffeine.
Nuts have caffeine?
Yeah, some of them.
No
nuts.
way. What kind of nuts?
Cashews.
Oh, I like almonds.
Okay, well, you're so far so good, I think you're safe. So does everybody who eats these foods get migraines? No, most people don't.
Okay.
But for those who are susceptible, this causes that vasoconstriction, and it's another aspect to the migraine problem.
So a person comes in to see you and they have a migraine. How many times do they have to continue to see you?
All right, it's a good question. It's a good commonly asked question, but it does not have a good answer because everybody's different.
Okay,
Now, it's not just the foods. Some of these people may be eating the foods, a lot of them don't. That's not the problem. Could be bad posture. A great example of this was a patient I saw back in clinic when I was still in chiropractic college. A young girl came in and she was a secretary who typed like this, but all the paperwork was to her right. She was doing this all day. Phone was over here, so she's doing this with the phone all day, talking and trying to answer the phone, look at the computer screen over here. She did indeed eat those food triggers, never worked out, and was miserable in her personal life. It's time for a holistic appraisal of her entire life.
So what did you do?
She also slept on her stomach, and we've talked about this before.
Oh my goodness! So people don't know if they sleep on their stomach, then they're overworking their body because the lungs can't expand, and when you wake up, you're exhausted. Did I say it right?
Just about, but don't forget that you got to turn the neck like this all night to breathe.
Oh yeah,
so people,
of course.
Would you walk around all day long with your neck turned 90 degrees to one side?
No.
We are built to have our head looking forward like we are right now. So imagine 8 hours like this over the course of 21 years.
Okay, you made a good point. You have to be sitting, standing, doing everything that you do, and you have to be in the right position if you want to maintain a good feeling of well-being. So, last night I'm doing a videography job, and a man in the audience came up to me and he says, "I'm concerned about your neck." I said, "What troubles you about my neck?" He says, "My head was up like this looking at the monitor." I says, "No, my neck is fine." Because you said, in fact, that if you're going to look at a monitor, it's much better to look up than it is to look down.
Yes.
Am I correct?
Correct.
Okay, but my neck's fine.
It's still fine now.
Well, it's fine because it's better to be up than down.
Right. So in our scenario with the migraine, the girl got a headphone set instead of putting the phone in her neck.
Right.
Moved the computer screen up front, typed, looked directly at the screen. Okay. Got off all the known food triggers, began exercising at the local YMCA, and made some changes in her personal life. And add to that, chiropractic manipulation. So would have chiropractic alone helped this person? I think not. But the entire holistic approach most definitely did.
What else should this person be doing? Exercise, eating right?
That's pretty much what we touched on. Now, these two new patients I got, I found out both of them sleep on their stomachs.
Oh boy.
So they have orthopedic pillows. They got to start revamping their sleeping habits immediately.
A lot of people may not know what is an orthopedic pillow. I have one. They're terrific. It's like the Tempur-Pedic foam, and they're shaped a certain way.
Well, they're what we call biconcave. They come in like this on one side and same thing on the other side. Kind of resembles a red blood corpuscle, as a matter of fact. You put your head inside the cup.
Who?
A red blood corpuscle. You know that red stuff that's in your body that it makes you tick?
Yeah.
You know, if you cut your wrist, there's some red stuff comes out?
You're talking about the blood.
The blood. Red blood corpuscle, RBC.
Oh,
Okay.
I just rather hear blood.
Anyway,
Yeah.
the red blood cells are what they call biconcave. They look just like that orthopedic pillow you have.
Oh, they do?
Yeah, it's the shape of, I just happened to mention that in passing.
Okay.
Anyway, the head goes into the cup. That little mound will support and push up the neck, and it's really a low-tech, yet highly effective solution to bad neck posture.
Okay. So tell us about some other people that come into your office. What kind of cases do people see a chiropractor, doctor for? What does Dr. H do at Boston Spine Clinics in Somerville?
Okay, another classic came in just the other day.
Right.
Everyday bread and butter scenario. Guy's in really terrific shape, kind of stocky, well built, very muscular. Said, "Doctor, I've only had pain for 3 days now, but my neck really hurts." And we got to talking. I said, "I'll bet you played football." He goes, "I did." I said, let me think. What did you play? "I'll bet linebacker and running back." That's exactly what I did.
Well, how did you know?
I judge the body type and the body size, and it's a little game I
Really?
play with all these ex-football players.
Oh, so okay,
No,
good.
it turns out that's what he played: offense, defense. Then what does that mean to you and me? There's a lot of head butting, a lot of hits, a lot of falls, a lot of from Pop Warner right up to college. A lot of bashing around. And he mentioned something else interesting. He said, "Doctor, I've always been able to crack my own neck and make my pain go away, but now it doesn't work anymore."
Oh.
And I said, "How do you sleep at night?" "Oh, on my stomach, of course." So it's time for an x-ray, I think. So we did vital signs and all the usual procedures in our initial exam: range of motion, dynamometer, grip strength, listen to the lungs, reflexes, the whole bit. And I thought, this neck doesn't feel right. So even though he's never had pain until 3 days ago, I think there might be more than meets the eye here.
So what did you do?
2 x-rays, front to back x-ray of the neck, a side view of the neck. Now the neck it's not so well illustrated here, but the neck should go in like a half moon curve. We've talked about that before in our office.
Right.
His neck looked like the Leaning Tower of Pisa going forward. So it had no curve. In fact, it was tilted way forward. So imagine my head, about 4 inches in front of my whole body, and the neck's just tilted forward like this with the head looking this way.
That would be painful, you would think.
Yeah, right, it is. It looks painful to the trained eye.
Is that because he was a linebacker and he played football?
All of it, all contributed. You know, a lot of hits, a lot of tackles, sleeping on your stomach he's 35 years old now. 35 years of that, cracking yourself all the time.
Is that a bad thing that I can crack myself?
Yeah, we recommend not, and only because you might be adjusting things that don't need to be adjusted.
I see.
Over-adjusting the spine. That's the word we use, adjust the spine. That's affecting a manipulation to push the spine back into proper alignment.
Right.
That's the word we use. So in this guy's case, orthopedic pillow is definitely indicated. I said tonight, not New Year's, not on your birthday, not on Christmas Eve. Tonight's the night you make the change.
Wow.
Tonight's the night your life turns around.
You put your foot down.
I tell him. And
Dr. H put his foot down.
for people who are in touch with their health, want to be in good shape, they'll do it. They'll jump on, seize upon this information. So he'll lie on his back, use an orthopedic pillow henceforth, plus chiropractic manipulation, and I foresee a good outcome. Now, how many times should he come in? I would think
a week?
Probably about 10, 15 times. He'll probably be out of pain. Although if I x-rayed him, his neck probably wouldn't look any different either. But at least we take the edge off the pain, let that low-tech but effective orthopedic pillow do its job henceforth. And then there's other things like ergonomic changes, like a personal computer at home. Most of the people have the monitor right in front of them down low. Put that thing up high. I don't care if you use phone books, whatever. Just get the monitor up high. Sleep on your back, as we said. Don't be looking down all the time reading books. Prop them up. All kinds of little, what we call ergonomics, changes that can be done at the home and office to keep the neck from going forward and looking down all the time.
Remember I asked you how many layers do you work with? Do you also work with muscles, and do muscles have memory, in this case with this gentleman?
Yes, a good question. We worked on you before. In order to get your hips to adjust, I had to dig in and do what we call trigger point therapy, sometimes known as shiatsu.
Yeah, you were doing the stuff on my butt.
I do.
And I would scream because it was so painful, and I would say, oh God, and you say, I'm here. But it would release the pain in the butt.
Well, it fatigues the muscle into relaxing.
Right.
Once the muscles are relaxed, then I can affect the manipulation of the joint in question.
Right.
In this case, the sacroiliac, this joint down here at the bottom of the spine. So that's important. In your case, it took the pressure off that area and relieved some of the pain going down the leg.
So muscle does have memory. So getting back to the gentleman, the linebacker, you have to see him. You said he'll be seeing you maybe 10 to 15 times. And every time you see him, doesn't the body remember? The muscles, doesn't it remember what you're doing, and it holds the adjustment? That's the point I'm trying to make.
Well, I would say this to that thesis. Muscle can be retrained quickly and easily. The spine is what the muscles hold on to. You put the spine in proper alignment, the muscles will then even out and align themselves to the frame of the spine. For his neck and all the muscles attached to his neck, they're not going to be right until that spine is properly remodeled.
Right.
So yeah, they'll just do what they have to do now, aberrantly, hypertonicity-wise, aberrantly, until that neck comes back into proper alignment.
One of the things that you really help a lot of people with is scoliosis. Can you tell us what scoliosis is?
Well, scoliosis, we get a graphic on there of a front to back view of the spine. We can show you. It's a side to side curve. This is once again a side view. We're going to want a front to back view. Again, not to be confused with this side view here. We have the skull, there's the hips. But if that same spine was facing out towards us, it would be perfectly straight. Okay, so a straight spine, let's use this guy here.
Okay.
That's the side view. Okay, here's our spine. Okay, this is the neurological center without the spine, but let's hold this spine here. From a side view, once again, it should look like this, normal curves. Front to back like this should be straight. Now, a scoliosis looks like this. So from a front to back view, we have a curved spine that's from a front to back view looks like this.
This looks very painful.
Now, this is a little bit exaggerated. What I often see in my office is a lot less than this, maybe something like 8, 9, 10 degrees, maybe 12 degrees, something like this.
Right.
Something that we chiropractors can work with. I'll put this down here. So yes, a lot of people come in, they don't even know they have scoliosis. It's 2 or 3 degrees, 12 degrees, way less than is surgically indicated for restoration. but enough to work with chiropractic, and it often is causing the lingering pain that they're feeling.
I was working with a bunch of kids the other day, and one of them said, it's a big, he said, it's a big concern for kids today because of our backpacks. Doctors are worried about us getting scoliosis. And I went,
Right?
really?
Yeah.
Who knew?
Well, the backpacks they're carrying, I see my son, who's in 11th grade, is a big, strong, strapping kid, almost 6 feet tall. And that bag must weigh 40, 50 pounds. And that's him. He can handle it. For these kids who are in 6th grade who have to carry almost the same amount of weight, I don't know why schools don't allow those little roller bags you see people carrying onto airplanes. That's what kids should have.
But I understand that kids would not feel hip.
Well, if they're all doing it, then it would become the new norm. But that was one of the things, ergonomically speaking, that would help, reduce childhood back pain and scoliosis. There was a study by the clinical internal medicine years ago, oddly enough, mimicking a Canadian study, an English study, and an American study, all came up with the same results. Kids under 12 years old all had a history of back pain, most of them in schools carrying books. 3 different countries, 2 different continents came up with the same results.
We didn't have that problem. We would have books. We would carry them in our hands.
Well, I had a backpack.
Or we would get some guy to carry them for us.
Yeah, you did. But I don't remember having to carry so many books. I don't remember them being so thick back in the day.
Right. No, they're making it a little bit tougher on kids. What are some of the other things that patients come in to see you?
Most of it's back pain, but occasionally, what led me to chiropractic, and I occasionally get a case like this.
Yes, how did you become a chiropractor?
I was the last person in my family to go to a chiropractor. And everybody in my family had these oddities that didn't involve the spine per se. Now, my dad, for example, my mother was the first to go. She banged her head in one of those attic rafter, those beams that go across and you walk around the attic. It's unfinished.
Oh,
right. Those struts.
Oh, that must have been
Turned
painful.
Around, banged into one of those, knocked her right back on her keister, and she had back pain and neck pain, or rather, headaches for weeks and didn't know what to do. Asked a friend, they said, go see John Crawford, chiropractor in Neptune City, New Jersey. And he's a chiropractor, he might help. 10 adjustments later, no more headaches. And it was, to her, a miracle. She normally would have gone to the hospital, which she did, as a matter of fact, originally, to get all kinds of medication.
And they did. They
didn't do anything.
Yeah, they gave her prescription drugs.
Muscle relaxants and painkillers, which didn't have an effect.
A Band-Aid.
Yeah. So the manipulation of the spine, what she had, in fact, was a whiplash accident. So the chiropractor reduced this tension, adjusted the spine, and the headaches went away. My father was next. He was jogging. He lost his footing going from the curb, from the sidewalk to the curb to the street. Didn't fall, just lost his footing a little bit.
That could be painful.
And he had this terrible heel pain. Went right to the hospital. And they gave him painkillers, x-rays, all this stuff, nothing helped. Reluctantly, he went to the same chiropractor. One adjustment later, no heel pain. The adjustment took place here at the 4th lumbar. You can't see the vertebrae, but it was affecting one of these nerves that come out. He had an aspect of sciatica. Now, we know sciatica is pain that goes through the sciatic nerve down the leg, but it sometimes can show up as just a pain in the heel, a pain in the lower leg, a pain in the foot. It doesn't have to have the whole leg being painful. So one adjustment, no more heel pain. He was sold. My brother was next. He had asthma. My brother still has asthma, but he no longer gets those violent attacks. He's never had to use a breathalyzer with spraying epinephrine into his lungs since he saw John Crawford in Neptune City, New Jersey.
And what did you go to John Crawford for?
Right. So far for what do we have? Headaches. Who knew it had anything to do with the cervical spine? Heel pain. The real problem was in the low back, which didn't hurt my dad at all. Brother, asthma, adjustments to the thoracic spine, this middle back here, recalibrated his sympathetic nerve system, that part of the nerve system that controls the diameter of arteries, veins, and our bronchioles, the lung tube, to let him breathe much easier. I'm number 4. I go in, I have mononucleosis.
How'd you get that?
I don't know. I wasn't kissing anybody that
I was going to ask you that, because they used to call that the kissing disease.
They did. Let's not date ourselves. Now they're calling it chronic fatigue syndrome. But back in the day, it was called kissing disease, and I'll never know because there was no kissing going on that summer.
Okay, but, so what did the chiropractic do to help you?
I went for 4 adjustments. It was gone.
You're kidding.
Now, prior to that, I was getting worse and worse, and we knew the pathologist at the local hospital, Don Shields, and we were getting blood tests showing how bad it was getting. It was so bad I couldn't get out of bed.
Your white blood cells increase more than your red blood cells.
Yeah, in this particular, well, the white blood cells go up. They're never going to be more than the red blood cells.
Okay, they don't increase, but they seem to be more than the red blood.
Well, they elevate over their normal numbers.
So how does a chiropractic adjustment fix that?
Well,
if they're not playing with the blood cells.
Well,
I mean, come on, Dr. H, we want to know.
Here's the magic of chiropractic.
Go ahead.
Adjustments to the mid-back, that's the thoracic spine here, stimulated the immune system and helped stimulate a greater population of antibodies, more white blood cells that help conquer this viral infection. Mononucleosis is part of the herpes family, as many viruses are. So it's in there, and it has to be conquered with your immune system. There's no vaccine for this. Now, we know it's a very simple, non-life-threatening, self-limiting disease. One person does not make a scientific study, I'll be the first to say. However, we're getting all these blood tests done, and the minute I started getting manipulation, everything started dropping back to normal levels immediately. I don't think that was coincidence. 4 treatments later, I was fine. I had no mononucleosis left. No evidence.
So you were sold.
I was
so
impressed.
Then and there you had that aha moment. I'm going to be Dr. H, Boston Spine Clinics in Somerville, Mass. Yay!
Yeah,
and here you are.
I was so impressed with chiropractic, I became one. Once again, my back didn't hurt at all at that time, but it was out of place. There was a compromise in my immune system, and chiropractic helps stimulate the immune system through manipulation of the spine, which also, in addition to taking pressure off nerves, stimulates an electrical cascade that often stimulates other aspects of the nerve system.
Right.
Literature was scant back in the 70s. Now we have a lot more, showing this is precisely one of the great benefits of chiropractic, immune system stimulation.
This is amazing.
It is amazing.
And one of the things that you mentioned too the other day was when people get into car accidents and they get into like a little accident and they just go like boop boom. You said it's a lot more serious than the boop boop.
It is.
And so I want you to explain, just take us through it because I thought that was fascinating.
Well, I was in court, a funny analogy I'll make for you. I was in court arguing a case not too long ago, and opposing lawyer for the insurance company said, oh, this is nothing. It was 2 miles an hour. You mean like bumper cars? I said, no, not like bumper cars. Well, do tell, Dr. Habershaw, how is it not like simple bumper cars? Why isn't everybody suffering from whiplash? And I said very simply, you remember the simple physics formula, force equals F equals ma. Force equals mass times acceleration. So the mass of 2 cars is around 3 to 4 tons. 2 bumper cars is even 400 pounds. So you have 4 tons colliding at 2 or 3 miles an hour or more, or 5 or 10 or 20, whatever the accident was. This momentum has to go somewhere. It doesn't matter if the car looks damaged or not. The force must go somewhere. Newton's laws of linear momentum cannot be denied, and the force goes into the occupants of the car.
So your body is like the shock absorber.
Yeah.
It gets rattled internally, even though you may not see it on the outside.
Yeah, well, cars today are built much more sturdy than the cars of the 50s and 60s, especially high-end cars, Volvos, Mercedes, you know, and they're built like steel cages. The cars in the 50s crumpled up like empty milk cartons.
Right.
They didn't have a lot of whiplash back then. The cars absorbed it all. Granted, they were made of heavier metals and more steel, and they were inefficient, but they crumpled up more than current, modern-day cars. So whiplash is in epidemic proportions now. It's not just chiropractors saying it. It's the Federal Highway Administration will tell you. It's just unconscionable. It's millions of new cases every year. And that doesn't include all the old ones that aren't resolving. So over the course of a decade, you have tens of millions of people suffering from new or old injuries from whiplash.
All right, so let's talk about some of the publications.
Well, chiropractic has come in the forefront in many areas in current critical literature. We were talking about whiplash a minute ago. Now, my friend Arthur Croft out in San Diego is a chiropractor. He and his friend Steve Foreman have written the definitive book on whiplash called the Cervical Acceleration Deceleration Syndrome. So this is what has become the biggest seller and the premier book on whiplash. No stone is unturned. All other critical literature is examined. And there's even a scale system in Croft's book describing how long people should be treated depending on what kind of grade 1, 2, 3, or 4 whiplash they have. And it's been adopted, the only grading system in existence. The biggest selling book in Williams and Wilkins medical publishing history was written by my professor at Chiropractic College, Lindsay Rowe, Essentials of Skeletal Radiology. The biggest seller in history. All the med schools use it also. So chiropractors are in the forefront of publishing books, to say nothing of the periodicals and literature in the magazines that come out month to month. Recently, there was that article on blood pressure reduction with chiropractic manipulation.
Right.
It's on the TV.
Yeah, that was a huge,
yeah,
it was huge.
The cohort study included MDs, placebos, people who weren't treated. It was a very well done and well conducted study, and it's definitive. Manipulation of the upper spine will reduce blood pressure.
Do you get a lot of doctors that come to see you, like regular MDs in your practice, that say, hey, you know, Dr. H, I'm here to see you, but, you know, don't tell my...
No, they're okay about it. I have a few. I have a lot of neurologists come to see me.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay, very cool.
I'm a board certified neurologist myself, so
Right.
they see that and they want to come in. And
Tell us about your website. Your website has some very interesting things. You're not just a regular chiropractor. You're into the whole body. You know, about drinking soda pop. You're really anti-soda pop.
I am.
Because, and you're into just keeping a healthy lifestyle. Tell us about some of the things on your website.
Well, you'll find that most chiropractors do talk about nutrition and good health. One of the things I got into back in the late 80s and 90s was neurology. Chiropractic offers what they call a diplomate program. It's a postgraduate degree in neurology. There's also x-ray, there's orthopedics, sports medicine, pediatrics, geriatrics, oh, you name it. They've got a diplomate for almost everything now, but I keyed in on neurology, and that's one of my specialties, diagnosis of cases, you know, unusual cases that might be amenable to chiropractic, or in some cases that can't be helped. You got to know when you can't help people.
What's one of the most unusual cases you've ever had?
You ever hear of beriberi? Remember that?
No,
You almost never hear of it anymore, but it was a popular, well, I shouldn't say popular, but a well-known issue back in the 60s and before, not in North America, but more in Europe. B-E-R-I, new word, B-E-R-I.
Okay.
Beriberi.
Beriberi.
The patients will come in, have peripheral neuropathy. Their legs that go numb typically. They may be swollen or they may not be swollen. And what is make a very long story short, is from alcoholism.
Oh.
Swollen means, they call it wet beriberi. Non-swelling is dry beriberi. So how do you relieve that? Chiropractic manipulation? No. You stop drinking alcohol and you go on a vitamin B regime. It'll instantaneously cure that. I diagnosed one of these over the phone for a chiropractic friend of mine. And I actually had one too. Now this case, you don't really do much as a chiropractor other than diagnose it and then find the appropriate remedy. In this case, it's more holistic than anything. It's the alcohol consumption or lack thereof, plus the vitamin B regime.
Does Dr. H make house calls?
Once in a blue moon. Not too much anymore these days.
Okay, so you're really into publications and speaking, doing public speaking. What's one of your favorite topics to talk about?
Well, what's great about chiropractic, why we're so effective, and why chiropractic really is in the forefront of holistic healthcare. And I bristle at the idea that chiropractic is alternative. We've been hearing that for years. Alternative healthcare. Let's see.
Does that bother you?
Well, it does. Let's see. They always mention chiropractic, massage, crystal therapy, hydrotherapy, and they go through this laundry list of these so-called alternative healthcares. To me, chiropractic is strictly mainstream.
It's like someone goes to a dentist. You go to a dentist for a checkup. You go get your car tuned up. Chiropractic, going to see Dr. H, is like getting a tune-up. So people should just do it because that's what you should do, and how often should we do it?
Well, I tell people to come in when you're feeling great, come in. Everybody looks at me like I've got three heads when I say that. But chiropractic's philosophy, and amongst the art, science, and philosophy of holistic care, we also espouse prevention. Prevent the problem from happening. Don't wait till you're sick and in severe pain come crawling in to see me, which is the standard medical model. We say prevent it before you get to that point.
Okay, so let's talk about some tips that you can give kids, adults. Kids, they're like involved with every kind of sport imaginable. I wasn't involved with that many sports. I mean, I remember being on a baseball team, but I got off of it very quickly because they told me to run to third base. And when I hit the ball, I literally ran to third base. I didn't run to first.
That's a problem. That could be a problem.
It was. I said,
I wish you could, but you can't.
Sports are not for me. So, okay, so what would you tell? Because kids are into soccer, they're into football. I mean, they're into everything. Isn't that like not good for the kids?
Well, it's so generally good, but you don't want to have a wound or an injury and then not treat it and let it fester and get worse. So I recommend regular checkups throughout the season for these high ballistic impact sports such as football, soccer. The kids are banging into each other, heading the ball. Sometimes they hit each other and miss the ball. I've seen that happen plenty of times.
And that's going to affect them down the...
Oh, yeah. So regular checkups throughout the course of their season. That is to say, let the chiropractor ascertain whether or not bones are out of place. We call it subluxations, or more modernly, pathomechanics of the spine. Correct the pathomechanics and send that child on their way. Chiropractors are also experts at diagnosing scoliosis, which we talked about earlier. Judicious use of what we call fast screens and the techniques we use these days, radiation from X-ray is extremely minimal. It's negligible now.
We probably get more radiation when we're sitting inside of an airplane.
From a TV.
From a TV?
You get more radiation from your TV every few days than my X-rays.
Yeah, speaking of that, electromagnetic energy.
Yeah.
Do you deal with that? I mean, like you talked about that, because we do get a lot of electromagnetic energy from our cell phones, from the TVs, from the wires up in the street. Doesn't that affect our whole...
Yeah, it does. There's a great book out there. It's called The Body Electric by a guy named Becker. I can't remember his first name.
And so does chiropractic...
I can't say that we do alter the microwave radiation that we're out there, but suffice it to say, in this day and age, all of us are living in a microwave, is what we're living in.
That's not good. So we're frying ourselves.
Well, if you could put the glasses on, seal the microwave, you would be shocked. You'd have to head literally to the hills to get away from it all.
Really?
Yeah. There's alarm systems. Military radio traffic predominates. I just said cell phones, alarms, military traffic. I mean, you name it. Just non-stop microwave radiation everywhere. Not to say nothing of the radio stations. And it's a blizzard of radiation out there.
But we're all functioning okay, or are we?
Well, you tell me.
Well,
have we ever seen so much cancer in the history of the world?
Oh, yes.
We have not. We have not.
So you think that has something to do with it?
That's my opinion, yes.
You might be right.
I'm not saying the cell phone alone does it, but I think that if you put the infrared glasses on, you'd see that you were living and working and walking through a microwave oven every minute of the day. This wasn't like this 200 years ago.
But if you deal and help with the immune system, wouldn't seeing you help with this problem?
That would help. Nutrition is very, very important. You want to detoxify. You want to gather up the free radicals. You've heard of free radicals, the extra electrons that tumble around us all the time.
Right, yeah.
So you want to observe the great nutritional approach and just do everything you can with all the toxins in the world out there, include microwave radiation, including the bad food and other toxins that predominate.
One of the questions that someone often asks you is, how young do you work with someone with giving them a chiropractic adjustment?
And you know what my answer is.
I do, but the public doesn't know, so.
Okay, common question. It's not a bad question. Dr. Haberstroh, how young or how old do you have to be to get a chiropractic adjustment? And I say 30 seconds. And they look at me and say, what? I said, 30 seconds. I don't get it, they always say. I said, you couldn't be 30 seconds of age and get your first adjustment. And then there's the umbilical cord. Without even cutting the umbilical, I put them on my shoulder and just gave very, very light little touches here. And I heard adjustments up and down their entire spine.
Did you hear it cracking?
Yeah, yeah.
That's amazing.
Well, the point is that barring the bizarre, being born will be the most traumatic event we all go through. The head looks like a bullet, the shoulders and hips are dislocated. It's not easy. So that's when they get their first adjustment. Of course, it's extremely gentle, naturally.
Is there anything you could tell kids when they're doing all their sports? Anything preventative?
Yes, I can. A lot of them are into weight training now to become stronger as they're growing up.
They are?
Yeah.
How old do they start?
Oh, they start very young now. And bear in mind the long bones, all the bones in the body for that matter, are still growing. So they lengthen like this. They have, bone is like, let's take the femur, for example.
Okay.
It's yay big when you're a little tiny kid. And what it does is it moves in directions both up and down simultaneously.
Okay.
DNA, genetic coding tells us the osteoblasts are laying bones down, they get to a certain length and stop. The vertebrae are the same way, all the bones are like that. Kids are doing heavy-duty squat lifting, where they have a barbell and a lot of weight on the shoulders and they squat down, lift up. You're literally compressing on these vertebrae and leg muscles, which are still, to a large degree, cartilage. So you don't want to be doing squats as a young kid.
How old should a person start lifting weights?
You can lift weights, just lower weight, more repetitions, and whatever you do as a kid, don't do squats.
I heard you talking previously about leg plates, plates?
The plates are they're made of cartilage, as are the plates in the vertebrae. Too much weight will cause disruption of that cartilage end plate, destroy it, and that bone will stop growing right then and there at that particular length or height.
So you're saying if someone starts lifting too early, they can stunt the growth in their legs and they won't grow that tall?
Literally.
Oh my goodness, can you imagine?
More susceptible are the bones of the spine. I see a lot of kids come in and say, "Doctor, my spine's killing me." They're 16, they're trying to squat 300 pounds. It's crazy.
But why are they doing this?
They're trying to make big, huge leg and glute muscles so they can play their sports. This is one thing in preventive care where you don't overdo it with squats. As a kid, this is one specific thing, and this is it. You don't do military presses. That's lifting weights above your shoulders. Same idea.
Right.
You're still putting undue pressure on the spine.
What about all these professional football players? You see them. My mom says, "Oh my God, doesn't that hurt them? They're banging into each other." And I went, I says, "I'm sure they'll have some problems later down the road."
Well, the NFL is notorious for having horrible, debilitating injuries to these players. We focus in on the Tom Bradys, the Peyton Mannings, the Dan Marinos, who have long and fruitful careers. The average NFL career, you take all the players together, about 1.5 years. The average length of the average career isn't even 2 seasons. They are so banged up and injured, these guys can't function anymore.
And does this carry through the rest of their lives?
Yeah, it does. My favorite player was Johnny Unitas. You might remember the great quarterback of the Baltimore Colts.
I know the name, but I'm not hip
he
on
was
sports.
a great quarterback from the 50s and 60s and early 70s. He, in an older life, he had neurological damage up here on the brachial plexus, so his hand looked like this. So he couldn't write even an autograph from a hit he got 30 years ago in a playoff game against the Cleveland Browns in 1967.
Is there anything you want to leave us with?
Well, I just want everyone to know that chiropractic is very safe and effective. It's a fabulous healing method that it expresses itself without drugs and without surgery. We work on the spine so we can get into your neurological system. We don't put anything in your body, we take nothing out. No surgery required, no drugs needed. And in many cases, for a lot of people, chiropractic is a very good solution to their health problems. Of course, this doesn't cure everything, but for a lot of people, it could be the answer to your issues, including immune system problems, things like asthma, migraines, and of course, the full gamut of normal orthopedic issues such as neck, mid-back, and low back pain. We also work on the extremities, knees and ankles and hips, tennis elbow, wrist problems. So there's the extremities that chiropractors are very, very good at. TMJ, the joint in the jaw, is another common concomitant injury after whiplash, for example. So, and I can go on, but the chiropractic...
I want you to go on and on.
I mean, it's extremely effective for a wide gamut of problems, many things that people don't associate with chiropractic care.
I didn't know that you took care of the jaw.
Yeah, we adjust the jaw, too. So that's another part. We see this often as an incidental injury after whiplash.
I know when I was learning to sing, because I wasn't singing correctly, I wasn't using my diaphragm, I would get so much pain in my jaw and my neck. But then when I would sing, I was fine. But when I would talk, I would get a lot of pain. And I had nodules, and they wanted to give me major surgery. That's when I got introduced to chiropractic care.
You had the good sense to get another opinion and seek alternative treatment.
I was very lucky.
Yeah, you were.
And I think chiropractors are just fantastic because you guys can help the whole body from head to toe, and it's amazing.
So that's why they call it holistic care, and that's why chiropractors are in the vanguard of holistic health care, holistic thinking, and holistic correction of lifestyle issues, such as sleeping posture, reading posture, working posture, exercising posture.
How should people sleep? Give us a good tip, Dr. H.
On your back, using the orthopedic pillow. The one we use, I think, is great, but there's many others.
What about mattresses?
Mattress should be fairly firm, as a general rule. Thank God water beds are no longer in existence, but now they have air mattresses, just as bad, forget them. A lot of good mattresses out there, and you can get them at a fairly good price, a lot of these discount places.
Well, what about a Tempur-Pedic mattress?
That's fine. I have Stearns & Foster, makes a great mattress.
Do you sleep on a Tempur-Pedic mattress?
I sleep on Stearns & Foster, thank you for asking.
Okay, good.
And so the orthopedic pillow on your back, side's okay, back is best.
Okay.
But whatever you do, don't ever sleep on your stomach, ever again.
Because?
Neck is turned 90 degrees. Lungs can't inflate. Low back is pushed into the mattress. Every part of your body, every part of your spine, I should say, is adversely affected by that horrible posture.
And you wake up exhausted.
Yeah, you do.
Because your lungs can't expand.
The muscles
breathe.
of inspiration are fighting all night against the weight of your thorax to open up and let the lungs inflate.
And I bet it affects your dream state too, because you're not sleeping correctly.
No, you don't. REM sleep is almost non-existent this way.
So, Dr. H, we have a minute left.
1 minute.
That's it. So, it's all yours.
Well, chiropractic, as I just said, is in the forefront, the vanguard of holistic thinking and treatment for many common and some not so common maladies that affect people in the country today.
So let's just bring it home. This is Dr. H, right here.
Also known as
Dr. John Habistro from Boston Spine Clinics in Somerville, Massachusetts. 617-666-1767. www.bostonspineclinics.com. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Dr. H.
Thank you, JoJo. Thank you
Appreciate
again.
you being here.
Always a pleasure.
Okay. 617-666-1767. Come and see Dr. H. I think he rocks. He's fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. H.